Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to me trying to get out of a reading slump. So, I think it's safe to say my brain is currently going through a bit of a roller coaster time with my mental health. I keep having random days where I dip and I keep having different triggers for things, and yeah, I've definitely developed some new anxieties and stuff that are kind of difficult to navigate. And what I read always has a big impact on me because part of my autism is that I have heightened levels of empathy. So if I read something that makes me feel sad, it's going to make me feel really sad because I feel bad for the characters. This is why I have mostly been reading romance lately. You may have noticed if you've been around for a while, I used to mostly read fantasy, and then in the last couple of years I've really shifted towards romance, and it's because I found romance lighter, easy to deal with, and in general just didn't depress me or make me anxious, especially because with romance, you know how this book is going to end. There's no stress of will my favourite character survive, you're just waiting to see how they get back together. So the thing is, romance has been kind of off for me lately. I've been feeling the repetitiveness has been getting to me. I've been struggling to find really outstanding romances that both have premises that make me want to pick them up, but also are well written and make me fall in love with the genre again. I've been reading a lot of 3 stars. I was pulled in by a TikTok video and then it's been kind of disappointing. So romance is kind of off the table for me right now, and that has sucked. And I then tried to read a sequel to a YA book I had read recently, and I wasn't feeling that either, and I realised I was at the point where I just didn't know what to read, and I was getting really anxious trying to pick what to read. So I put on my Instagram story, after having spoken to Leanne from Literary Diversions and her Patreons, I've decided to DNF my current read, but now I don't know what to read. And I kind of jokingly said if someone could just come to my house and look through my TBR and pick my next read for me, that would be great. And to my surprise, a couple of people actually offered not to come to my house, but to look through pictures of my TBR and tell me what to read. And the first person to do that was Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots, and I really appreciate that because I trust Aoife. I feel like Aoife really knows what will grab me. We don't always have the most overlapping opinions on books, especially romance. We kind of tend to have divergent opinions on tropes, but I feel like Aoife kind of has a good grasp on my tastes, at least because we know we don't always overlap. And I think she got what I was looking for, which was something that's kind of low stakes and lighthearted and fun, but not romance. The one rule I had was no romance. So what we have chosen, or Aoife has chosen, is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Admittedly, this wasn't her first choice. There was a couple that I had to say no to. I can't remember why. I think one of them we forgot was a romance and not a contemporary, and then the other one, I think the book was kind of about depression, so I said maybe not right now. And then the third choice was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which is by Becky Chambers. This has been on my TBR for an embarrassingly long time. I don't know if this was even, I feel like this was gifted by someone at some point, and normally I keep the Amazon gift slip in here so I can remember who it was, but it's not in there anymore. But I'm fairly certain this was gifted to me at some point by somebody, so if that was you, thank you very much. Also, apologies for the lighting. It's chaotic. We're in a reading slump, we're feeling chaotic, we're just filming a video. So this has been around for a while. When was it published? Can you tell I'm feeling a little bit erratic today? 2015. So this was published in 2015. That's like 8 years ago. So it is old, so most of you probably have heard of this. It is a series. Oh my god, the lighting. It's because the wind is pulling my blinds in and out because I can't have the blinds all the way open, otherwise it's blinding, but fun. Let's see if we can fix this scenario. Okay, now I just look really oversaturated and bright, but we're going to go with it because we don't want the constant for you guys. So this one follows a person called Rosemary, who is looking for a bit of a fresh start. So she joins the crew of the Wayfarer, which is a spaceship. She's looking for somewhere quiet to kind of escape her troubled past and to call home for a little while. She's kind of got more than she bargained for because the Wayfarer is this mishmash of species and personalities all living aboard one ship. But the crew of the Wayfarer for it are offered a job to build a hyperspace tunnel to this new lonely planet, and if they complete it they will have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of their lives. But the catch is they have to build this tunnel through war-torn space and try not to upset any of the political and war happenings going on around them. So it does sound high stakes, but from what I've been told, this is considered like cozy sci-fi. Sci-fi is my favourite genre, even though I hardly ever talk about it, and it's because I'm kind of picky with it. But when I read a good sci-fi, it will instantly be a new favourite for me, whereas any other genre, if I read a good fantasy, it's not an instant favourite. But this cozy sci-fi space operas are my favourite. So I was really actually excited when Aoife picked this one, because I kind of have been scared to try it because I'm scared I'm not going to like it, but I feel like this is going to be the right kind of cozy vibe for me. So I'm going to give it a go. We're going to see, does this get me out of my reading slump? I'll keep you updated every so often, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'm 100 pages in and I am loving this book. It was the perfect choice to get me out of my reading slump, and I'm just so excited by this. So I know I was told it was cozy sci-fi, but I think when I first sort of heard of this book and heard the term cozy sci-fi, I didn't know what that would mean. But now that I've read some cozy fantasy, I know what it means, and so I'm not surprised by it, but I think if I'd read it a long time ago I would have been surprised, and I might not have liked it as much as I do now. But essentially it's very much like Legends and Lattes and I'm trying to think of other cozy fantasy. The House in Cerulean Sea, where not a lot happens and you're just kind of following the day-to-day activities. And it just is a beautiful story about character and people, and this is this book, and I am loving it. I think so far my favourite is probably Sissix of the crew, but we haven't really got a chance to spend a lot of time with some of the other characters, specifically Ohan. We haven't met them very much yet, but I am really enjoying the diversity of the crew, having them being different species, and different species having different varieties of genders and gender expression and sexuality and just different customs. So I'm looking forward to that being explored more, and just as they explore more of the galaxy, I'm looking forward to seeing more of what comes out of it. So yeah, this has been awesome. I've been reading it on reading sprints and been really enjoying it, so I do think I'm gonna get through this book fairly quickly, but not super quickly because it is very dense. There's a lot of quite intense world building, especially at the beginning of this book, because there's just a lot going on, and so I think it's going to take me a while to get through all of that. And the font is also tiny, so I'm not quite reading at my usual pace of a page a minute, but we'll see how it goes. But I am really enjoying this. Okay, so I've made it to about page 200 or thereabouts, and I am still in love with this book. So this is so good. It's a very slow read for me. This is about halfway through-ish, and it's taken me way longer than it would normally just because it is so dense and the font is so tiny, but I am still really enjoying it. It is such a good read. So we've had a couple of scenes that I really love, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there was a scene with a character that was clearly like autism coded but without the word, and I loved that. It felt very kind of accurate to the description of how autistic adults kind of feel in the world, even if it was a little bit depressing. We've had some more interesting reveals around people's backstories and like more world building of people's backstories, which has been lovely, even if it was a bit sad at times. And we've also had a few dramatic moments that have been really interesting, but I really like how the dramatic moments are kind of still character focused and more about like how the characters navigate the moment than the drama and any kind of action happening. And I'm really just loving seeing how being a good creature, I guess not a good human, but like a good person, is kind of triumphing in this scenario. I think it is a beautiful story and I'm really invested in the characters. I think my favourites change now to Jenks because of a recent interaction he's had in the book, and I can't tell you much about it, but he kind of was acting as like a support for someone, and it was really sweet and it was unexpected, and I just think he's so funny, and his backstory is really interesting, and I'm wondering if we're going to get any more about it from him. We haven't really had a lot from his perspective. I'm not a big fan of his like AI love interest storyline because AI is a bit of a hot topic at the moment and it's making me kind of anxious, and I do see a lot of the ethical concerns around it. So yeah, it's a really interesting read so far, and I am so enjoying it, and hopefully I will get through it at a decent rate. Okay, I am now just over 300 pages into The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and we've had some really interesting things happen. I won't give any spoilers, but we've got some more backstory for a couple of our characters. We've got to finally see a little bit more about Corbin, how he grew up, how he came to be on the ship and that kind of stuff, and I just really loved that sort of element of finding out more about him because he's been the most kind of controversial and least talked about character so far. And we've had some really lovely moments between a couple of characters, where some emotions seem to be blossoming, which was lovely, and I really liked we got to see a bit more about Sisix's home planet and discussion around the family culture of her species, which was really interesting. I think the only complaint I have at this stage in the book is that the time jumps have been a bit confusing. So I know at the beginning of every chapter it tells you the day and the year, but at first they were very close together because it was about the start of Rosemary joining the ship and her adjusting to the ship, but then there's been big jumps and we're now in like a whole different year, and I feel like because of the big jumps I am struggling sometimes to see how relationships would have developed, and I feel like we're missing out on some interesting stuff that could have been done plot wise. In some ways I wish this was multiple books about the same story of them doing this job so we could get more plot as well as the character stuff, or at least just have some scenes that kind of explain the context of where they're at in their like jobs journey, because I think it's kind of hard for me to really conceptualize and figure out whereabouts they are, and the progress they've made in the job so far. But yeah, other than that, it's really good. It's still slow going, but it's a book that I want to pick up actively. Like when I'm at work, I'm thinking like, on my lunch break I really want to pick this up. After work I've been thinking about wanting to read it. When I'm doing Pomodoro sprints for studying I want to read it in my breaks, so I'm definitely motivated to read again, which is lovely. And yeah, I am just so happy that I finally have got a book that has made me excited to read again. And it's also been really cool that it's starting to give me ideas of inspiration for my own writing projects, and it's kind of showed me almost like a blueprint of how I could do something similar with my own cozy fantasy that is actually a similar kind of not a similar premise, but I guess sort of about people going on a journey, and I didn't want the story to be all about the journey. I wanted it more to be about the self-discovery between the two characters that go on the journey together, and this has been a really great blueprint of how to do that. But I've also learned what I haven't been enjoying in this book and how I could change it in a way that would suit me better when I do my own story. So yeah, I'm really liking this. It's been amazing. I think I've already said, but the second book has already been ordered, so I'm hoping to pick that one up probably in August because I have some book club books to catch up on. But I'm just so happy. I think at this point it's really hard to choose a favourite. It's probably split between Sussex, Kizzy and Jenks. Oh, and also on that note, the Jenks storyline has had an interesting development that I appreciated, and I thought it was well handled, well discussed. Yeah, I think it's a very good book that kind of explores different ways of being, different ways of living, and the realities around it, and also kind of government control. And yeah, I really like it. I do wish there was kind of less human bashing in it though, because that's been kind of jarring for me to read all the time, is about how awful some of them think humans are and what humans did to destroy the planet has kind of been sad. But overall, I think it's been a good read so far, and I'm really excited to read the last 100 pages. Okay, so I have finished The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and it's time for my final thoughts. This is an instant 5-star new favourite book, and honestly it's close to being an all-time favourite, to the point now where when someone asks me what my favourite book of all time is, I will tell them, if I have to give one book, I will say Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. But if I'm allowed to say more than one, I will say Neverwhere and Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Now I will be saying Neverwhere, Stardust and The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This was incredible, and I just realised my camera's wonky. Better, but not perfect. So this was incredible. I don't want to give spoilers, but this book made me cry. I don't get books making me cry very often. It's incredibly rare, and this book made me very emotional. There were kind of happy tears, emotional tears, not sad tears for sure. And I wasn't expecting the characters that made me cry to be Corbin and Ohan, but here we are. I just thought the author's done such an amazing job of making you care about each individual character by the end of this book. I certainly didn't care for all the characters for the whole book, but I don't think that really matters. By the end of the book I really cared about most of them throughout the book, and then by the end I loved them all. And I think she did a really good job of giving each of the major characters a satisfying ending to their story. I know the second book is a continuation of some of the minor characters in this book, and it kind of acts as a standalone, but it helps if you have read this book to have some context on those two characters. But the main crew all get a really satisfying ending, and they just I just feel really fulfilled reading this book. I feel like I've spent some time with some characters that I absolutely loved. I felt like it was really worth seeing their stories, and I feel like I got a really satisfying ending that, whilst it wasn't completely closed, it was enough and it didn't feel like there was any loose ends going. It just was beautiful. This book is so beautifully, wonderfully written, and I can't get over this. I loved it. I've actually gone, and on Vinted someone was selling the Illumicrate set of this, and I have ordered it. It was a bit expensive, but they weren't selling it for like crazy expensive. In fact, they probably barely made any profit on this set from what they paid Illumicrate for it. So I'm really happy with that. And yeah, I'm very excited to read the rest of this series. They're all kind of standalones or very loosely linked, much in the way like romance novels usually are in a series. So yeah, I'm very excited to continue this series, see more from some of the side characters and see more of this universe. I just think it's very like well written, well developed. Each character had an amazing arc, and I just thought that they had such good stories, such good development, and the world felt very real, very crystal clear. I did sometimes have to Google what different species looked like, but that was more because I was struggling to visualize. I think Becky Chambers did a really good job of describing them. I just wasn't capable of picturing them. And I felt like the different worlds we got to see, I really understood why they were different to each other. I loved the commentary on like different cultures, how they clash, how they come together, appreciating different cultures and their foods, but also finding other cultures frustrating at times, and how interspecies relationships can be both a beautiful thing and very tense. It's just such a masterpiece. That's what it is. It's a masterpiece, and this is a gift. I think this is an amazing read if you really like anything that is about character and about relationships, about culture, and there's a lot of food in this as well, so if you like food, it's a good thing. It's a sci-fi book, but it's not an intense sci-fi read, so if you're not typically a sci-fi reader, you will probably still enjoy this if the themes of it appeal. But I think there's enough sci-fi in it to satisfy sci-fi lovers too. So all in all, I just think this is such an amazing book. My only complaints is I felt the chapters were way too long, and I struggled with the time jumps happening in the book. I felt like we missed a lot of context and relationship building at points, but overall it still came out as a 5-star for me because those were such minor complaints. So Aoife did an amazing job picking this book. I loved it. I'm definitely out of my slump now. I feel really fired up. I think the reason I entered a slump is because I had too many mediocre books in a row and I just needed an outstanding read to get me going again, and we have managed that. So I mean, you can see how happy I am. I love this book and I feel really out of my slump now. So Aoife did succeed, and yeah, I'm very happy, very grateful. And if you've read this book and you loved it as much as I did, feel free to come drop in my DMs and tell me, or in the comments below. I loved it. So thank you so much for watching this video. I would love to hear your thoughts on this book in the comments below if you read it, and if you have any recommendations based on this for me, I would love to hear them, because if there's any other books with these kind of vibes out there, I would love to know about that, because cozy sci-fi is officially my favourite genre. I'm definitely going to be continuing this series. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are in the description below. And if you'd like to leave me a comment to let me know you are here, leave me the rocket ship emoji in the comments below. Thank you again. Bye.